All right, this is episode 2 of the Low Sodium Gaming Podcast. Kris and Rob, say hi, Rob.
Hey guys, how you guys doing? Hopefully you enjoyed the last podcast.
Yeah. Everything's posted up. We have it on whatever you guys listen to: YouTube, Spotify, Google. What? What's the other one? Apple. Yeah, that little one,
Yeah,
Apple.
yeah. That little one apple. No biggie.
So what you been playing recently?
So remember when I was talking about Spider-Man and how I like Spider-Man Miles Morales more? So I actually started replaying Spider-Man 2018. I'm almost done with it too. And I stick by what I said before about that I think Miles Morales' story is way better. I do appreciate the graphics of that game, especially for a game that came out in 2018.
What are you playing it
So
on?
I'm playing it on PlayStation 5.
Okay.
So but even in PlayStation 4, it still looked great. So we're in New York, and one of the things that I do a lot is that whenever I visit a place in real life, I go back to the game and I check it out, and they are very good and like all the little details of that city. I granted it's not the whole city. They took all like for the game they took Washington Heights out. So
Hmm.
Washington Heights is all the upper side of the New York, but for overall, man, it was very detailed and very impressive. The fact is that I believe it's Insomniac. Insomniac did an excellent job with that game.
Yeah, I can't wait for the sequel, and I have to wait to get a PS5. I think they actually I was walking through a Best Buy here. I'm in Houston right now, and I was walking through Best Buy to buy a mic, so we could record right now. And I think they have PS5s in stock, which is wild to see because it's been like 2 years and you couldn't get one. But yeah, I've been
Brother, take the shot. Take the shot.
I can't
Yeah.
I can't do it, man. I got rent to pay. Um, but I've been playing Elden Ring. I've been stuck on that game for a month. I just beat the second to the last boss. And like when you text me, uh, that you're ready, I was like, when I said give me 10 more minutes, I just wanted to walk into the boss room to see what it was like. Immediately got killed. I was like, okay, I can hop off now.
Man, I can't like the Elden Ring is one of those games that I am ready to play. I just have such a backlog of video games that I still have to play. So
So
yeah,
here's the thing, right? I'm big on Destiny 2. I try and get people back into the game now. Um, Elden Ring dropped. I dropped Destiny. Like it was like you know that meme with the guy looking back at the girl. That was me, man. I was like, oh, I haven't played anything else in a
oh
well
man,
more
I
than a
I
month now.
no, I get it. So I actually, and this is testament to the people from software. I played Demon Souls recently, like one or 2 months ago, and that took everything else off my schedule. Like I played that game for a whole month, and it's an old game, right? But it was remade for the PlayStation 5. But I was still mesmerized of how awesome that game is, to the
Yeah,
point that sometimes like you lose sleep. And that's a problem with those games too. Like you lose sleep, you're like, one more shot. I know I can beat him this time. I know I can beat him this time, and you don't. You're like, ah,
yeah,
it's so
man.
frustrating.
I have
Yeah.
no shame. I have no shame. I summon uh NPCs like your normal summons. I summon players, whatever I can do to get past the next one. Because I just
Absolutely.
want to I just want to beat it at this point. I have like almost 140 hours into it.
Dang.
Yeah, man. Like there are for my job I have to do like these classes sometimes, and I can do them from home. And like I'm not gonna lie to you, like there'll be like I have classes all week, and I literally spent 8 hours every single day playing Elden Ring
I,
while I'm supposed to be in this class.
I get it, man. I get it. I get it. I had that addiction too with Demon Souls. Like when Bloodborne came out, it was something similar. I my favorite game from Software is Sekiro. Shadow dies twice. I think the sword fighting in Sekiro is second to none. Like, and that's part of the reason why I also a lot of people get upset at me when I say that I am not a fan of Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, because I think
Okay.
that Ghost of Tsushima's sword gameplay is subpar compared to Sekiro's. Sekiro's really
I
feels like
think
it's a well-deserved block. When you're blocking in Sekiro and it's a successful block, it doesn't feel like cheap shot.
yeah, I
Like
think
it felt
the difference
deserved.
there is accessibility. I think that's what it really is. And like you just enjoy the harder, like the harder gameplays. That I haven't played Sekiro yet. I have it. It's in my backlog. And like I was gonna play that before I played Elden Ring, but I got caught like Witch Queen dropped, and so I started playing Witch Queen, and then Elden Ring dropped, and I completely dropped. Like I I plan if I beat it this weekend, I plan on hopping back into Destiny 2.
I will tell you this that like since you're playing Elden Ring, you're gonna be better at playing Sekiro now. It's also like From Software brings different techniques from players that been playing for a long time. So before Sekiro, I was playing Bloodborne. I jumped to Sekiro, so like I already had that quickness
Yeah.
in it that you need for Sekiro or for to play the game and it transitions. So if you're playing 140 hours in Elden Ring, I suggest that you
Here's my
jump into Sekiro because you're gonna lose those skills.
here's the problem. Um, I am a sword and board kind of guy, right? I carry a shield with me. There are no shields in Sekiro, and you know what I suck the most at in these games? The parry.
What?
The parry. Like I suck so much with parrying. So, like, yeah, it's gonna. I think I'm gonna play it. It's gonna be a while before I actually touch it, but yeah, I'm gonna get to it.
Yeah, it's totally different experience. The parry is, I think, very fair. So I think every player struggles with parrying. Some players are way better than others. I get that, but for the most part, players struggle with the parrying. I think that Sekiro, when it really forces you to get good at parrying, and you feel it when some other game is trying to do parrying, and you feel like it's cheap shot. Like it feels like the timing is off. So I think From Software prides itself in timing. So like when they make sure that when that sword is about to hit you and you hit that block button, it's like that is exactly the perfect time that in real life, like if you're actually in the game, that's exactly how you would block. Whereas
Yeah.
in other games, you have to block 2 or 3 seconds in advance, or like a split second before when the sword is still far away from you, and for some reason, like it still doesn't work. It like I think From Software does a really good job at timing.
Okay. So with that, we're doing something a little bit different than the last episode. We're gonna be talking about our own personal list of our top 5 most overrated games. I cheated a little bit. All mine aren't games, but I did have to come up with a list. So
Not all of yours are games.
no, not all of mine are games.
Okay.
Not all of mine are games.
So one other thing that we did is that we didn't want to tell each other our top 5 most overrated games because we wanted to hear each other's surprise. So
Okay, so how you want to do this? So we're gonna start at number 5. Say yours first, and I'll go next.
let's start with number 5. That's how we said. I'm sorry, you got me a little bit off guard. I'm like, all right, let's do this. All right, so 5 most overrated games. Number 5, Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I don't think you've played Final Fantasy VII Remake yet, right?
I haven't.
So I first of all, full disclosure, I love Final Fantasy VII, the original one, and I actually really loved Final Fantasy VII Remake's story. So I thought it was the ending was very impactful. Like it really puts the game into a different trajectory when it comes to the story. Like Like it's not following anymore the trajectory of Final Fantasy VII, the original. It's making its own path
So
after that ending.
it's living up to that remake in the
Yeah.
title. Okay.
Yes. So like it's different, but the reason why we call these games overrated is because of the reviews that they got. And one of the things that I noticed was in GameSpot specifically, they gave the game a 10 out of 10. And I honestly did not deserve that 10 out of 10. It actually deserved more like a 7 out of 10, and that's for a couple of reasons. First, it was too overextended. The game took too long to finish, and it was only talking about the Migdagar part section.
They stretched out the Midgar part. How long did it take to actually get out of Midgar? Because it wasn't that long.
So for Midgar, it actually took like 4 to 5 hours to get out of Midgar.
Yeah,
4 to 5 hours.
And you're looking at a game that was about 60 hours long, maybe 20 hours per disc. So a lot of time wasn't spent there. So I kind of saw it, I was looking at the reviews and I was listening to people, reading a few comments and stuff like that. And I felt like what they were doing was like fleshing out other characters, but they didn't have a lot to go on. And maybe they didn't add as much as they that would justify the game being solely about Midgar, solely about those people, Wedge and Biggs and all.
Yeah, I agree, and unfortunately, a lot of the times that they extended it, it didn't like a lot of times it wasn't necessary. It
Yeah.
was a necessary storyline. In fact, I'll give you an example. So remember in original Final Fantasy, plate up in the top, it was about to fall down
Hmm.
from Midgard, right?
Yeah.
And there was a sense of urgency as you're trying to reach the plate and you're fighting all these bad guys and you're going up the tower to try to save the plate from falling. So like there was a pillar that was holding the plate, and if that pillar was destroyed, the whole plate will fall down. And you're trying to save the people. There was a sense of urgency there. And this game, they take the sense of urgency out, and
No.
they take and it's too extended, right? So this is why I get upset at the game, because like you're trying to extend the storyline, but man, like every death that happened. So like when some of the side characters died that were there trying to help you in the beginning of the game, they have these long expositions of like thanking Cloud and like they wish they could have done more and all that stuff. I'm like, a plate is about to fall. It's like I get it, man. You want to say goodbye to these
it's
people,
like
but
it's like an action movie where they stop and kiss, but something's about to blow up. It's
it's
like, if y'all don't run.
yeah, and I'm like, I get it. The plate is about to fall, and then they switch to Aerith. So like you're Cloud for a little bit, then they switch to Aerith. It's something new from the game, and you're trying to rescue the little girl from, I believe it's called Seventh Heaven, the bar. I forgot the name of the bar. I think it is Seventh Heaven,
Hmm.
uh, and it takes so long for you to get to the bar and get the little girl, and there's so much exposition. Like the like Aerith's goes down, talks to the little girl. Hey, like, it's okay, everything is all right. And I'm like, girl, get out of there. Like, there's no grab the girl and leave. It's like it just everything in Final Fantasy VII Remake is like that though. Like there is never a really good sense of urgency because they always stop to talk too much. Like that, what you commented about kissing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we see that all the time in movies. But think about it this way: a plane is about to fall, and every person that you meet, it takes like 2 to 3 minutes to have a conversation with them. 2 to 3 minutes. It's like if I were in Cloud's shoes, I would be like, "Sorry, I need to go." So in the original Final Fantasy, I felt that sense of urgency because the sentences were fast. Like
Yeah.
they said something like one sentence and that's it, move on. So I was very frustrated with Final Fantasy Remake, and
Does
I felt that it did not deserve a 10 out of 10 or like this. or any other rave review that they got. It was a good game, and I want the sequel. But to tell me that it was perfect, it's like, bruh, we got problems. Then it's
So
like,
I'm
go
gonna
for it.
say this, right, and then we can move on. But my my reasoning for not playing it yet, like I know I can get it on a PS4, but like I want to say that game, like I spent that summer when that game came out. I spent that summer playing only that. Like that's all I played. I was like searching for everything and I was doing everything. That's the game that kind of made me, like made me get into video games. Like, hey, this is
Yeah,
my hobby. This is what I really want to do, and and everything. So I have those rose tinted glasses, and I don't want to. I haven't even gone back to replay it. I have never replayed Final Fantasy, and I'm hesitant to play the remake because I don't want to take those glasses off, right? Like I don't
yeah.
I know going back to, a game that's almost 30 years old, and
So I will
what
tell
is
you
it,
this,
20,
Chris.
almost 20, whatever.
I will tell you this, Chris. If we can, like, we can go through like a lot of how do you say this? Like, there's a lot of elements in there that is very much like theory, and it could all mean something else. But I think that the way that Final Fantasy VII Remake is being developed is that both the remake and what actually happened in Final Fantasy VII, the original, are both happening at the same time.
Mm,
So I don't want to go too much into spoiler territory, but they're both connected. So
okay.
like Final Fantasy Remake hasn't forgotten what happened in Final Fantasy VII.
Okay. I
And
mean, like, I'm not saying I'm not going to play it, but I'm just like, I'm hesitant to play it because if I don't like it, will that tarnish my view of
not at all.
the
I don't.
original?
I don't think so because both of them, and I think that the writers were genius about this. I think both of them, it's a completely it's a completely new story in a way, while not forgetting that Final Fantasy VII is happening at the same time. I feel if to give you an analogy, I think it's more like the multiverse situation
Yeah.
that's going on in Final Fantasy. It's very interesting, and so I was listening to some of the people that do these and discussions and stuff. Easy Allies. They had a good podcast about it. They said that they think that Sephiroth actually belongs in Final Fantasy VII, the original,
Hmm.
and he is coming to the remake and like in this universe to try to change the events that happen in Final Fantasy VII, the original. And I think it's a very intriguing. It's a very
That's some weird
intriguing story.
meta. There's some weird meta stuff going on right there.
Yeah, there's a very really intriguing theory because he does like Sephiroth does say some comments. You're like, how do you know this? And it's like how do you know this is already going to happen?
I
How do
might
you know?
I might have
How
to
do
show
you?
my PS4.
Yeah,
Might just have to go ahead and bite that bullet and do that.
yeah, like it's very intriguing. That's why I put it as my number five because this is my top five overrated. I think the game itself it was overrated. I think it they should have done a better job at the pacing, and they should have done a better job at the whole like the not only the pacing but the mission structures. I think that it lacked a lot of love in the missions, on the side missions, but overall the story is still very much Final Fantasy VII. It's like, wow, you guys, I see what you guys are doing. It's I'm glad that you guys are doing something like this. That's exactly why Final Fantasy VII is so good. It's because of the story.
Yeah.
It's like such a good story. All right, so it's your turn now.
All right. So my number 5 is the Pokemon franchise. Straight up, I don't get it. I really don't get. I don't get any of the hype around that.
No, I
Like,
get it.
I get like I remember when it first came out. Like, I think I was in high school, and it was like nah, I'm not into it. I get it, people like it and whatever. And people were trading and they were doing all this and that, and I was like, I tried playing it. I got it. My sister had a Game Boy, so I hopped down and I started playing it. I was like, this is dumb. Like like no part of that, but not yucking anyone's yum. Y'all love Pokemon. Cool. It's just something I don't get, and the fact that they're just now starting to change that form. Like the game that just came out like a little while ago, open world, and the Pokemon were like, oh, the graphics suck, but the open world and this and that is really awesome. And I was watching streams of it, and I was like, they made games like this 10 years ago.
Yeah,
like they've done all this. Why is this selling so well?
I don't know. That's something I don't understand. It's not well. I guess so. We're also adults now, and it's a different experience. But I remember as a kid, I got the original Pokemon games for the Game Boy, and even then, I wasn't impressed. I didn't see that what was the big deal about it. So it is an overrated game, or overrated franchise. How about that?
Yeah. I'm shooting shots at every game in the entire franchise because it's been the same thing for the entire time that thing has been around.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I feel like, and like, yeah, they add different things, add new Pokemon, have fantastical names and all that stuff, but it's essentially been the same thing the entire time it's been out, and it's just now starting to change, which is great. But we'll get Anyway, we can move on to your number 4.
Number 4. So this is controversial to anybody listening. Persona 5. I play 110 hours worth of Persona 5, and I don't think I don't. Well, that's how long it took me to finish it. It's like it. So like I'm not sure if you know how the Persona 5 works. So
no, I've never played 5. One.
You are given basically a year to finish the game, a year in game. So every day, in order to move on, you have to do an event in the game to move on, and so on. And sometimes they give you certain timelines, like you need to finish this on this day before it's too late. For whoever you're trying to save. The thing about it is that Persona 5 was given a lot of love by the reviewers and by also people that love these games. Like they are just like mesmerized by these games. I don't see how this is a good game when it's basically all the events that you're doing are not interactive. You're not interacting with anything. You're just reading script. Like you're reading the interactions of two people, and yes, the excuse for these critics and the other people that love the franchise, like, oh, it's character development. But I can only take so much character development. It's 110 hours, right? 110 hours of me just sitting there and reading and reading and reading. And I love reading, but man,
so God, it had to be decent because you finished it.
So I've started it. I remember I've started it in February 2018. I started in February 2018. I finished it in January 2020. That's how long it took me. That's how long it took me to. I was. Because I had to keep putting it down. I'm like, I'm done. But people, I'm unfortunately a product of people that are just fascinated with the game, and like people are like, oh my god, you need to play this game. This game is amazing. And I'm like, all right, let me give it another shot. Maybe I'm looking at it in a different lens, and I keep trying to give it shots, and I'm just still disappointed. Man, look, the dungeons were also a drag. So when you're in a dungeon, like it takes an exorbitant amount of time to pass a dungeon. It's like they don't know when to quit. There's always a different level. It's like the pacing is always off. It's like the same as Final Fantasy VII. They just didn't know when to quit. It's like at some point you gotta end it, guy. I know that you like this level, but it's most of the corridors look the same way, and it just became mind numbing. I will give it this. I think the music was amazing in Persona 5. And I think part of the reason why I continue playing it is because I'm a big fan of music
Mm-hmm.
in video games. And when I listen to good soundtracks, it does help with passing the time. But even the
I'm
soundtrack gets
sorry, but
shot.
like music isn't good enough for me to put 110 hours into a
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Exactly.
Like that one,
So
that one want to hit the back burner real quick.
yeah, so that's the reason why I think Persona 5 for me at least was a very much overrated by people. And also, like, I don't understand, like, how is Persona 5 on the top 100 list video games of all time for a lot of the different video game companies. It's like, why? And it bothers me because Persona 5 is, if you think about it, it's a good game for the people that love it, and I think that's the people that it's trying to attract. But for the overall community, it isn't that great. Most of us haven't played Persona 5. I
Mm-hmm.
play it because I'm like, they saying it's a good game. I'm gonna trust these reviewers, and I'm telling you, I look at different reviews. Like I looked at all the reviews, and they're saying like, "Hey, Persona 5, gonna love it." Sat through it, you saw it. Took me 2 years to finish it, and that's my number four. Go for it.
um, all right, number four. You're gonna come for my neck. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Bioshock Infinite.
What?
Yeah, man.
What? No! You
Bioshock
did that on
Infinite
purpose.
has a great story. It is a great story, but the gameplay gets boring as fuck after a while.
You
I
know how
mean,
many
like,
times I finished that game? I finished that game like 4 or 5 times. I have that game on the PlayStation 3. I had it on the 360. I had it on the Xbox now, and I have it on the PlayStation. So, like, I am a huge fan. I even considered buying it for the Switch. That's how big of a fan I
that
am.
game gets boring after a while, man. Like you're playing it, it's the same thing, right? Like they're feeling themselves, and it just kind of keeps going. And like, yeah, I'm fighting this boss, and now I'm fighting this next group, and it's just waves after waves. And like even when you start talking about the story, not the main story, but the other thing, like say the Vox Populi, um, forget the leader of that one, but they always go this route where when they're touching on issues like that, they never go too far, and that person is always willing to become a monster. For what reason? Is it so that you don't feel too much sympathy with that group, even though like what they're doing is justified? It's
So you're upset
I'm not
because of
upset.
Comstock.
I'm not upset. I
Uh,
am not
not
Comstock,
upset.
not Comstock, but like they touch on like these racial things, but it's a AAA game, right? And they only can go so far, and that just kind of takes away from what they're trying to say because they're not really saying anything. And so,
I think
like,
they're saying a lot. I
but
honestly thought that Bioshock Infinite said a lot, especially in that time
they
era.
said a lot about sexism. They said a lot about religion and stuff like that. But they tiptoed a lot around the race thing.
I don't know, man.
It was surface
When he
level.
was doing that tour for
It was
but
surface level.
but remember that tour with the Indians, and not
Yeah,
only the Indians but the Asian
yeah.
community too. Like
Hmm. I mean,
I think it was very clear what they were trying to
they're
say.
pulling a lot of that stuff straight from history. I mean, like a lot of those things were done, you know, for real and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is like even like, man, I cannot remember her name right. But that game,
Elizabeth.
I played 1.5 times because the first time I played it, I really enjoyed the story. Right, like I really loved like the multiverse hopping and everything. Booker, what's the girl's name?
Elizabeth.
Everything between Booker and Elizabeth, Booker being Comstock, all that stuff was like awesome,
It's
right? Like
funny. Like
the
these are the names
main,
that I know. Like I.
the main story in that game was pretty good. but like when you get in there and you're shooting, and I didn't find the gameplay that engaging, right? And like going back, 'cause I remember like I used to listen to NPR a lot, right? And they even had what's his name, Kevin, the writer of the story.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
They
yeah.
had he was giving interviews like in different media outlets. Like they were covering him on the news, CNN, like places were covering, because like this game was so well reviewed and everything. But when I went back to it, I was like, I can't. Boring. Like
I honestly thought for when I played it, Kevin Levine, Ken Levine.
There you go.
So I honestly thought so. Bioshock Infinite and Last of Us came out around the same time in 2013, and Last of Us got all the awards. I played Last of Us. I honestly thought that Bioshock Infinite deserved it more so than Last of Us. I think
a lot of times that kind of goes into what's grounded and what's not, because like even though you have like the plant zombie people in Last of Us, it feels people can connect easier to that world than they can a flying city in the sky that has multiple dimension hopping.
I guess I love that. I love, and I think that's the reason why I kept playing it, because there were a lot of things in the game that there were still left undiscovered, right? So like the story was so rich for me, and there was so much to say about Comstock and Booker, and both of them being the same person, right? I felt like I needed to search every nook and cranny of this game because I wanted to understand the story as much as I could. I wanted to understand why is it that Bioshock Infinite and the original Bioshock were connected. I thought that was a brilliant perspective. I'm like, I know that they're doing another Bioshock right now, but I think Bioshock Infinite did a full circle.
Yeah, it should definitely have ended. It definitely should.
On the original.
Yeah,
the fact that you ended the game basically, I believe. Well, you almost ended the game in that level, basically.
Yeah.
It's in the original Bioshock, that was amazing. It completely got me by surprise, and that ending too. It's like when you finally find out that you're.
But you're seeing you see everything that you're talking about, and I agree with you. But you have to play it. you have to play it, and if the gameplay isn't as engaging, it can't carry me through. And again, that first time you're going through, you're high on that story.
I enjoy. You're absolutely right.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
I was high on the story for multiple times though. I was high on. I liked it so much, and I agree with you. The gameplay was amazing. I think for me is that like the story and the music just drove me. So like that for me, that was enough to replay it. And suck up the gameplay. It wasn't the best gameplay. It was not, but it was doable for whoever enjoyed the story and want to continue checking other stuff out.
Yeah.
But good point on the gameplay. Yeah, you're right.
All right, man. You're number 3.
My number 3. So like I will say my list is controversial again for whoever's listening. So I'm gonna say it. Ghost of Tsushima is my number 3, and a lot of people like Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't exactly love it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it deserved the rave reviews that it got, and especially I got upset too because I was on the bandwagon and I was like, oh, Ghost of Tsushima is going to be a way better game than Last of Us Part 2, right? Because people were upset at Last of Us Part 2. I played both, and I'm like, oh, Last of Us Part 2 was a way better game. And I think a lot of people gave it better reviews to Ghost of Tsushima because they were trying to do it despite Last of Us Part 2. They were so upset. I have never seen such vitriol of a community from the community that they were so upset at Last of Us Part 2. I was like, wow, like we
So just to make sure that I'm catching this, you're saying that Ghost of Tsushima got the high praise because Last of Us 2 got so much hate.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So a lot of people, and you can see it in the comments. You can see it in the comments. The reviewers were actually a little bit more fair, but they still love Ghost of Tsushima. But for the people, the fans themselves, the people that play video games, like that, for the most part, it's like, oh, Ghost of Tsushima did everything that The Last of Us could not. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're two completely
That's
different,
apple
separate
and
games.
oranges, though, right? Why are you comparing
Yeah.
those?
Exactly. So, but there's more to it. So again, so like as a video gamer, I always give these games a shot anyway. So one of the things that I notice immediately is that I again when comparing to Sekiro, because I just came back. No, so I was saying that the thing that I thought was important for this game was the combat, and I think the combat was a little bit lackluster, especially when you're talking about the sword fighting and the blocking. So the blocking was not very good. Like the parrying was not very good.
Yeah.
Another thing that I got upset about is that you can change the control scheme. So the sword fighting was
Oh,
a
you.
little bit.
Oh man. Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
Okay, you can change the control scheme because in these sword fighting games, a lot of times you use the right top trigger of the controller to attack, and this one did not allow you to do that. I was very frustrated with that. Another thing that was upsetting was that it was repetitive settings. So I saw a lot of reviews that they were like, "Oh, this game is beautiful. It is such a scenery," but I don't think that people understood that it was the same setting. So, you ever wonder, like in PlayStation 4, why the game loaded so fast? It's because they were using basically the same items in every other scene because it was the same thing.
So
They might have changed the mountains and stuff, but most of it was basically the same. The buildings, the whenever you attack a camp, it was the same components. It's like it
Yeah.
was very repetitive. I'm like, wow, you guys, like I don't like. I was very surprised that reviewers didn't notice this. That this is basically the same, but they move around some things. So like it's a different challenge, right? So
Yeah.
like now I'm moving this enemy here and I'm putting this building here, and now it's a different challenge. So I didn't find joy in that. I was like, okay, so this is repetitive. Not only that, so like now I'm going to the story. So the story itself was very intriguing. It's a very thought out story. The thing that I hate about some of these open world games is that it tells such a compelling story, but then you have all these little side quests that are in between it.
Yeah.
So now you're doing all these little side
The
quests
sense
in
of
between it.
urgency kind of killed by, oh well, let
Yes.
me all these side missions for our character. It's the
So
same in like the new setting for the Assassin's Creed for me. Um, like, oh, I have to find these people that are responsible for my son's death, but
Mhm.
let me go, find out who's kidnapping these kids real quick. That's gonna take me a couple hours to do before I go get this vengeance.
Yeah, yeah. I felt it most in Ghost of Tsushima, honestly, and I think it's because the side quests weren't even that intriguing. So like you have to chase down a fox sometimes to get certain items.
Uh huh.
Sometimes you read poetry, and like the way that he'll do it is he'll observe the landscape, and you have to choose what landscape are you visualizing so he can create a line. So there's three stanzas,
Hmm.
so he creates three stances by viewing it. At first, that's very good, but then after like the umpteenth time that you're doing it, you're like, all right, we got to move on. And people would criticize me like, well, you just finished the story then. And it's like I try to be as completion as possible. I don't get all the items, but
Yeah.
anything that is story related, I try to do. And I didn't feel that those story related items were productive in the main story, and that's one thing that I hate about some of these PlayStation games. Horizon Zero Dawn is another one. It's like they put so much fluff in between that I lose a sense of urgency. And this is, I wanted to make this comment out. It's like we're talking about overrated games. You know what game I don't think is overrated?
Which one?
Grand Theft Auto 5. I do not think that Grand Theft Auto 5 is overrated. I think Grand Theft Auto 5 deserved all the praise in the world because a lot of those side missions, they were really entertaining.
Yeah,
It's
they were
like,
really well done. I mean, it's the same with The Witcher 3. Like,
oh my God, yes,
there
you're
were some of
absolutely right.
some of those like the Baron quest, that side mission was better. That story was better than a lot of games, like full 40-hour games. Like that story was really good, and they managed to constantly keep doing that. And by the way, I've never beaten a Witcher. That's in
Oh
the
my God,
that's
no,
in the
just
backlog.
stop, just stop.
That's in the backlog. But yeah, man, it's like I get what you're saying, right? Because I was playing Watch Dogs 2, and like I was trying to cover it for my my backlog catch up or whatever, but like I wanted to like it, and there were some really good elements in there, but like things just weren't connecting the way I felt like they should, right?
No,
Like
you're right.
you would be like, it felt out of place that I had a gun giving my character. It felt out of place
Right?
that
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It did feel out of place.
we're
I agree
talking
with you.
about followers. We're talking about followers and stuff like that, but and social media, and then I'm infiltrating a religious organization, and I'm like killing people. Like there is a point in the story where the story turns, and one of the members die, and so dude is kind of out for vengeance, and that's when it finally started to get good. And I was like 20 hours in, and I'm like, okay, man, y'all could have streamlined this. This didn't
Yeah.
have to. This didn't have to be this way. Y'all could have made a great game and just like cut out all the BS, and I would have really enjoyed this and been on my way. But it got to the point where I started to enjoy it. I've been on it so long, I dropped it.
Yeah, like I dropped it 2 hours in. I just couldn't stand the story. I thought that story was too much.
It gets better, but yeah, it's out there. But I just comparing it to
story.
Comparing it to Ghost of Tsushima, like I get where you're coming from. I watched a lot of gameplay for it, and it looked really good to me, right? Like, but I wasn't.
It does look good.
I wasn't the one playing it, right? And some people only like to watch. That's why Twitch and YouTube, stuff like that, are as big as they are. But it's a different experience when you actually play the game, and so I could like what I was seeing all day and not like when I actually played it. So yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I get your side too about Watch Dogs. All right, so I this is my number 3. I think it's your turn.
Yeah.
For number 3.
All right, man. Red Dead Redemption.
Okay, so
Two.
the first one or the second one?
The second one. You can say the first one too. I have the same problem.
I agree.
I have the same problem. So my issue, game looks great, voice acting sounds great. I didn't get out the first act of either game. I've paid cash money both games. I've tried playing both games numerous times. Like, why don't I like this? Why don't I like this? And because the game feels like a chore.
It does.
Like, how are you the developer of Grand Theft Auto 5? And I get it. It's the Midwest. It's the West.
They're trying to make it too realistic, but that realism becomes annoying.
It's so. I don't know. Like, the game is beautiful. You can ride horses. I love fucking horses in games, and like, let me go back. I love riding horses in games. But it's just like even the shooting there like felt good and things like that, but it's just getting to where you have to go. It's not entertaining. And I get that people love it, but I just don't see it being that top tier game solely based off the fact that they went too far. They
went too far in the realism.
The realism of the game. So like
Yeah.
realism, and that's when people talk, oh, this game is realistic. That's fun. No,
No.
what you're looking for is authenticity, right? Because the
Yeah.
game is still a game, and you still have to enjoy that. And freaking folding clothes, nobody wants to fold clothes, right? So like in Red Dead, when you're like skinning an animal,
Yeah.
like
It
don't
takes
walk
forever.
through each step of skinning the animal. Like just let do the animation like every 10 times. Don't run through it every single time, because who wants to do that? Who wants to spend out of if I play this game for 100 hours, 8 of that, 9 of that is me skinning a freaking bear.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So, like, in the defense of Red Dead Redemption 2, I think that the realism is very much there, and it does take some joy away from it. Uh, at the same time, you got to give it to the writers that they really wanted to tell a story. So this is one of those few times where a writer actually got to tell their story in the way that they wanted to tell it, in the most authentic way that they could. Whether or not we like the gameplay, that's up for grabs, right? But by the end of it,
They
when
should have made a
everything
movie.
it's when everything is what's up.
They should have made a movie.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. But by the end of it, no. Well, here's the deal. Like the thing about it is that there's a lot of character development in Arthur Morgan, and all the actions that you do lead up to the end, and it does affect how you feel about his story by the time that you finish. Uh, my it I don't usually cry in a lot of games. Like I'm pretty stoic when it comes to that. There are a few games that really touch me, but like Red Dead Redemption 2 really got me. It's like I chose the good side because you can go either bad or good. I chose the good side, and I felt really much at peace with his ending. It's like it was a very well thought out ending, and you're right. It might have been a movie, but they decided to make a game out of it, and I think that's the beauty about it. Instead of making a movie, they're
I've
like, you
been
know what?
wrestling with going back trying to play it. I was like, what I'm thinking about doing, picking it up and playing it on PC, but I'm waiting for a sale, and Rockstar hardly like puts deep discounts on their games. So if I can find it at a good price, then I'll play it. My thing is, like again, a good story can drive you to play media. Like I've done it plenty of times. No, um,
Yeah,
the
I got it.
problem with this one though is that it takes forever. For me, it felt like it was taking forever even to start that.
The
Like
Dutch Vanderlip again. Like that's the thing, though. Like when you go to the camp and you see the interactions between people, like you see that there is like that development that you really start caring for these people, and then when things go wrong, like it just everything goes wrong. Like it gives it so much more impact. It's
yeah,
like I'm telling you, like when you get to those last few hours, that's like wow, like everything that you saw from the beginning all the way to the end is well deserved.
yeah.
And I think that's why it got the reviews that it got, and that's why some people that have finished it, they're like, this is, I respect this game. I didn't enjoy it, but I respected
Yeah, and
it.
like this is my last point on it, and it's that right there, right? Like you have a good story, and that can drive you through it, but at the end of the day, we are playing a game, and so it has to be engaging. Gameplay has to be carry me all the way through, and if it's not, I'm more likely to put it down. Like and as we get older, we have less time to dedicate to kind of things. I know I said I played Elden Ring for 136 hours in the past month, but I have to be, that's something I've been really enjoying. Like that game, that game tends to have something really, really interesting behind it. There's secrets and something to discover naturally in this open world, and that might be in Red Dead, I won't know because again, it felt like a chore to get to.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, man.
All
What's your number
right.
two?
All right, number two. I don't think you've played this one, and this one got
Dude,
a
I haven't
lot of
played
good
anything
reviews.
anything on your list.
Yeah, no. Disco Elysium.
It's on my
I'm sure.
wish list.
Yeah, Disco Elysium. I was playing it with a buddy. So me and my buddy and I, we were trying to do like a book club thing, but instead of a book club, a game club. So the thing about Disco Elysium is that the actions that you do in the game are might be completely different from your buddy, and it completely diverges the storyline, and we wanted to see where our storyline got us. The thing is, as we started talking about the story, we started realizing we started taking the same path anyway, and we also started realizing that the story is, even though it spreads around, it is still very like this. You have to meet certain criteria and get to that ending, and that ending will always finish in that same location. So like I saw that there were some split ups in the storyline, and sometimes it can go really left or right, but overall it still follows a somewhat linear path. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I noticed, that like people are like, oh, the story is good. You can make this different decisions and you can have a completely different experience. Overall, I agree, but it isn't as pronounced as the reviewers want you to believe. It's like, no, it's there, but it's not that big.
So
The next.
you got to cut
Uh,
him just a little bit of slack because that is a small indie team. And I know, like, I remember when the game came out, I was again listening, like, hearing all this stuff about it. I put it on my wish list. I don't really play those types of games. But I was hearing about the development cycle for it, and they, like the dialogue trees and how, like, if they do this, it goes this way. If they do that, it goes that way. But they also have to be. They can't feature creep like they like Star Citizen because they are a small team, right? They don't have infinite funds, and something can break along forever to fix. So they put it in a box, but it's a well designed origami box.
yeah, it's true. What? But look, and another thing is, you're right. The developers are, it's a small indie game. I get it. Uh, I also think that like that critics also focus a lot on the story,
Mm-hmm.
and it did have a story to tell. So
Yeah,
the man does have an issue with its own character. He suffers from depression. His wife left him, and you don't know that until like halfway through the game. The thing is that apart from that, there are things that are alluded in the game that is more metaphysical. It's like there's something metaphysical about everything that's going on in the game,
yeah,
and there's a certain scene there's a certain mission that you do in the game where apparently you open like something like there's something like the veil. It's like a fourth dimension
uh huh,
in the game where it alludes to something bigger. It might even help describe what happened to the man when he lost his memory, but they never even touches it. It's like it only scratches the surface. And I also saw that in a lot of the other things that Disco Elysium like had. Like it always just scratches the surface and never goes deep into the metaphysical part, or even more into like the deeper meaning of the game. In fact, I will tell you something, like the ending of the game was very anticlimactic. It's like you end on an island, and there are certain things that you do in that island. You solve the mystery of the killer. So the game starts with you're trying to solve the
yeah,
mystery of
yeah,
somebody that got killed, but you solve it. But the way that it ends, it's mostly an assessment of everything, all your actions, but it never really hits like that tone where you're hoping for something big to happen.
yeah.
Nothing happens. It's
Huh.
like, okay, well, that was for something that led to that point, because they were really trying to build it up. And like when it finally got there, I'm like, I don't Okay, well, that wasn't impressive at all, and that's why I leave it as my number two because it did get a lot of reviews. But then after playing it, like me and my buddy were really excited about this. He hasn't finished it yet. I went ahead and finished it.
Yeah.
And I was the way that we talk about it, like it's kind of boring because we took different routes, right? But overall, like, did you do this? Yeah, I did that. Oh, okay, did you do that? Yeah, I did that. So like, you're still hitting the marks, and then when you get to the conclusion, you're like, that was very disappointing. So yeah, that's my number two.
Okay. So I think we might fight on this one.
You fought with Bioshock Infinite, so I'm
No,
ready.
no, you're gonna start like if you could punch me through the screen, you're about to do that. My number two is Last of Us, the first one.
Oh my god.
So we've had this conversation, and you're well, we had this conversation about 10 years ago, actually. And you're the only
Yeah, I
reason.
remember.
You're the only reason why I played this game because I saw it and was like, I don't want to play that, and I left it alone. And I'm hearing people talk about it, they're ranting and raving about it, and I'm like, that nah, that's probably not for me. Okay? But
It
you
wasn't
came
for-
highly recommended from you, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'll play it. Whatever. I don't have to buy it. Whatever. I'll play it. Right. So I'm playing through the game, and I'm literally calling things before they happen. Right. I'm seeing the story beats. There's no excitement with it. Some things I miss. There's a little bit of tension, but like really, I am kind of hitting all the notes. Right. Then the gameplay felt it wasn't extraordinary, right? So like the reason I'm playing this is like to satisfy you. You're like, Chris, you gotta play it, you gotta beat it, you gotta see it through. This game is great, it's awesome. And it was mediocre at best. It like I just there was no man. there was no point where I felt like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? Because I felt
uh,
like I was predicting everything that was
no,
going to happen. And even
like
even with
say,
even at the end,
how
even
you
at the
predicted
end
that was gonna
where
happen.
even at the end, like the big story beats, like where they're alluding to like maybe somebody might die, or even with Joel getting back Ellie, I didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with it. Like Ellie should have died. Ellie should have died, and I get why he did it. But I'm thinking about the greater good, right? Because the world sucks.
But that's the thing, though. Like I agree with you that he shouldn't have done it, but he still did it,
Yeah,
and that's what made it dramatic, though. Like you think that this story is going one way, but it just completely did a 180, and he's going another way. So
you
like
you saw that coming though.
I don't know. Like I see. Like the thing is, I didn't see it coming up until like they. So like in the game, uh, some of the characters really upset Joel. So the guy that was like basically making sure that Joel didn't do anything stupid was like really being rough on the guy. It's
Mm-hmm.
like there's no reason for you to be rough. It's like, yeah, are you trying to be a good guy here? But you're like really treating him like shit. He just brought like your one hope, and all of you are treating him like shit.
Yeah,
Like Joel is a thick ticking time bomb. He's gonna blow up. And like when I saw that happen, all right, I knew that was coming. But before that, I was like, well, Ellie's gonna die. That's how it's gonna end. I was like, you start treating a man like that with so much disrespect and disdain, you're gonna get it. And I'll be honest, I was waiting for Joel just to lose it, and he did. I felt that way. I
that that
felt
that
that way.
sequence though, I will say that was a highlight, right? When you're going back in there to get her and everything, that sequence was pretty exciting, right? That was pretty good. When you start talking about cover shooters and things like that, that level design and everything was really well done, and there was it was the right level of difficulty. So normally I play on normal. Reason the reason why is so I can get through things. So I can experience it and then kind of move on, right? And even for that section was difficult, but I didn't feel like it was being difficult in a cheap way. So I will say that, like, there were certain sections of this game where it was just the perfect amount of difficulty and level design where you felt like you were really like accomplishing something.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I disagree with you and that game specific. I would understand Last of Us Part Two. I have a lot of friends that are like not a fan of Last of Us Part Two, but Last of Us Part One is a classic.
Man,
Uh,
I'm sorry, man. That's my one.
that's
Well, like
you hurt me. You hurt me. You hurt me
more
there.
more than Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite, you know, like I bought that on my own. I was like, you know, let's get into this. I really liked the first one. Never played the second one, which I'm going to go back and do. But yeah,
I'm
Last of
ready.
Us.
It's funny that you like we're apologizing for this because I'm ready to say my number one. I'm not sure if you like. I'm not sure if you played this one, but I know a lot of people have played this game.
What is it?
All right, so number one, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. So I'm not sure if you played Breath of the Wild. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god!
You'll learn why in a second.
All right, so Breath of the Wild. I saw all the reviews. Everybody, 10 out of 10. Every time that you mention Breath of the Wild, it's like on the top 10 of all video games of all time. I say that's bullcrap. That is such a bullcrap. I don't understand why people love this game so much. First of all, like so this is I'm going a little bit on my personal opinion here now, but
Oh, of course.
there's other things that bother me too. So the first thing is that Legend of Zelda is usually heavy on the story. This one has basically no story. That's the first one. Secondly, the open world aspect of it, like I see, like I hear a lot of people saying, like, oh, when you in open world, they basically don't give you any direction. You can do whatever you want. Like, how many games have done that? So many other games have
Successfully.
done it. Yeah, like Assassin's Creed, Skyrim, they've done that. They basically like they don't give you like a actual point marker. You can choose where you got one. In fact, they give you a marker, right, to go. Guess what? Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild does that too. It's like it is a concept that has been done before, but now it's being applied to a Legend of Zelda game. Does that make it like the best game ever? No, absolutely not. And another thing that annoys me is the traversal aspect of it.
Oh yeah?
I
Like it was praised for that.
no, so like I hate the fact that first of all, the horse thing. It's like if you go too far, like you remember that like what is realistic. So in Red Dead Redemption 2, if you lost your horse, like if it was too far away, you can get your horse back unless you went to a specific location, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, the same thing here. Like if you lost your horse, it's like yeah, and you're trying to call your horse. Though sometimes it will tell you like the horse is too far to hear your whistle. I was like, Jesus Christ, come on, guys. Not that's the one thing. Then the other thing that pisses me off is whenever it's raining and you're climbing up a mountain, it'll start slipping. Like you start slipping, you cannot go anywhere. Sometimes you can, like if you're trying to get out of a certain area and you're trying to climb, like it is so ridiculous how patient you have to be. Sometimes you just have to wait. Just wait it out. Wait the rain out. I'm like, why am I waiting on a game? It's like, and that's the thing that aggravates me about the Legend of Zelda. It like all this praise and like the thing is that they praise it. So I would get if they were talking about um, their open world in general, but when they talk about traversal, it's like you said, like that's one of the things that they actually talk really highly about. It's like, yeah, it sucks. it's it, another thing that you see is like the weapon stuff, like the weapon systems, like the weapon systems will break after a while, and that's another thing that's annoying. Like, and you don't even have a way to repair them. They just break, and you just have to find another sword. So like, there if you're in the middle of if you're middle in a dungeon or something and you're out of weapons, you're out of weapons. It's like that's it. Like you have to get out of that place to look for a weapon. So a lot of my time playing Zelda wasn't playing Zelda, was trying to, okay, like I need to get out of this place now. I need to return, do all this stuff, try to find new weapons, yada yada yada. So like I was reading. It's funny because I was reading a review the other day of Legend of Zelda. Funny because this game came out in 2017. They're saying like one of the things that they like about it is that it you never know what you're gonna find. Like for example, there is a mythical island that you find in the middle of no like outside of the main hub of the game. There's an
Yeah.
island, so you can go there. I thought that was interesting. That I give it praise, but I think the traversal, the horse issue, the weapon issue is so aggravating to me that I lose all the fun. It's like you talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, how sometimes they try to be too realistic in like how they deal with things or
Yeah.
like gameplay sake, but it's just not fun. It is not fun, especially for us. Like we're working people. We're definitely we don't have time to like just like okay like let me go back and get a weapon. You know, I don't mind a game that's being long, but let it be entertaining in the process. Don't make me work in a game. You get what I'm saying?
So, this is gonna kind of your number one rolls into mine, and mine isn't a game. My number one is the entirety of the Nintendo company. I think Nintendo as a whole has been overhyped since the GameCube. They have been doing okay, they have been doing this wonky weird shit with their consoles since the GameCube. Like I get it. Like you do your own thing, you're making your own games. That's you know, third party games really don't sell on there. You know, I get it, right? Mario, Zelda, freaking whatever else comes out on, Mario Party, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, whatever, right? Here's the problem though. Even on their own hardware, their games start to run like shit.
Their games what?
Their games don't run well. Like so, Breath of the Wild, would have problems where it starts chugging. And I don't own a Switch. I purposely I bought a GameCube and I played 2 games on it. I played Wind Waker, which was
and Twilight Princess,
which was good, and the where they re-released Metal Gear Solid.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
and I barely played it because the controller was. I was like, okay,
it was a good way controller. Yeah.
So, but they're always doing this weird stuff. And like, yeah, the Wii was perfect for kids. Okay, cool. And then they came out the Wii U. Nobody bought it. And now we're at the Switch. And like, I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, it's a docked mode and they'll be able to play the games better. And I'm like, but it's not going to be able to play anything that anybody really wants to make. Right? Like, you're making these games, you're making, Mario. What's the last one that came?
It is basically basically a console for Nintendo games because that's the best that you can do.
That's the
like
best
any other game.
And none of
any
their
other
games,
game doesn't. It's lackluster.
None of their games, nothing that they're doing for me, appeal to me, right? Nothing they're doing with Mario. I used to love fighting games, even Smash. Like people love Smash. I think okay, right? Like people love it. I don't even watch it on Twitch. It's boring to me. Whatever.
I love okay. So Mario, in Nintendo's defense, like it does have some pretty good solid games, like Mario Kart. The Mario Odyssey was pretty good, and the RPG Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 are pretty decent too. So like there are some good games. I do have to say that I completely agree with you with the Nintendo franchise. I think it's overrated, and also like I'm glad that you mentioned Nintendo because it gives me room to say like Nintendo's abusive.
Yeah, I was just about to touch on that. Like
yeah.
Apparently, they have like ninjas. You heard about that? They have like Nintendo ninjas and lawyers that go out and enforce their copyright law.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how abusive they can be, especially to us, right? The consumer. The games that they come out, like the fact that the way that they do discounts, it's like they're not very user friendly. Like they're like, well, we'll give only a little bit of discount. So meanwhile, PlayStation 5, Sony and Microsoft with the same game, like let's say for example, with the same game, it's like 14.99 the discount, right? You go to Switch, it's like 30 something dollars in the Switch. I'm like, really? It's like, and it's not even a better game. No, it's not even a
No,
better game on the Switch. It's actually a pretty lackluster one.
but
I do think that
Nintendo needs to go the way of Sega. They need, like, seriously.
I will tell you though, brother, it's not gonna happen.
It's not. It's not because they rule the handheld market, and this is actually a topic that we can do on another episode. I can't wait until. I hope the Steam Deck is very successful, because you're talking about a machine that's about as almost that's touching the power of a PS4 in the palm of your hands, that can play AAA games. No, not at 1080p, but it's playing AAA games with a constant frame rate. That's right up their wheelhouse. It doesn't touch the same type of games. No, true. But it needs to hurt their they've been the kings of the handheld market forever. And if somebody can actually hurt them in that market where people are like, oh well, I have all these indie games that are killing it on a Switch because it's portable. But now I can have my entire PC library. I can play I own all these indie games already that I've already paid for. You get where you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. So like something that I appreciate now Microsoft's doing, and to its credit, is that any game that you bought in the 360 era translate in the Xbox Series X era. So I'm glad that they're finally doing that, and now Sony's joining the bandwagon. The fact that Nintendo, it hasn't done that yet, and it's also ugly, right? So like one thing that bothers me is that Nintendo is selling $60 games that came out like 10 or 15 years ago, and they're still selling it at the same price.
They're stuck in the fucking 80s, man.
It's like it's so disrespectful to the consumer.
But whatever, people are buying it, people are killing it up. I'm not gonna. I don't say like I'm boycotting it. I don't care that much. I just, whenever Nintendo's brought up, like a flame ignites, and I'm like, fuck Nintendo. But
yeah, I get it.
But like at the same time, it's just I need to see. I want to see someone step into that space and just take some of their market share and make them make a better console. Like, take that bite. They make the money. They make the money, and like they don't do things in such a way where people want to come and make games for their consoles. Like, I don't know what it looked like when they were, courting people to make games for the Wii, but all I know is third-party games really don't sell on Nintendo consoles, and the question is why, and it's because my take is that Nintendo's making it hard for people to do that.
Well, not only that, it's just a totally worse product, right? So I mistakenly bought Dying Light for the Switch, right? But I already had it for the Xbox Series X, which, by the way, recently got an update too, to make it 60 frames per second, and I believe up to 100. I believe 18,000p or something, 1800p, and it looks great, right? Yeah. Like when I played it on the Switch, though, it looks terrible. It's
of course atrocious. It does, because you have an Android phone and a Switch case, and there are phones out there that are more powerful than the Switch.
Yeah, like I just got my iPhone 13. I'm pretty sure it's more powerful than the Switch. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Switch needs to also start catching up with these other systems like the Sony and Microsoft systems in order to make a better appeal because right now like their graphics just suck.
I mean, I can have an artistic design go in the art direction, right? And
But you have to make it specific to the Switch. You like now like it's
but like this, if I want to go for any kind of natural, realistic, do that on a. If I want to add more detail into what I'm doing, what I'm saying, like, which is, I see it as a kid's console, but a lot of adults, it makes sense for people that live in cities and people that
I
travel a lot. They can use it as
I still play
a.
my Switch by the way. I play my Switch a lot actually. I so like the game that I'm playing right now is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition,
Uh huh.
the first one. Mad respect to like Xenoblade Chronicles. In all honesty, those are the two games that I truly enjoy from the Switch, like more so than all the other games that I have there. Uh,
Is that the only platform that they're on?
that's the only platform that they're
That
on right
is
now.
unfortunate because I'll never play
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I know.
That
That's
is
pretty
really
funny.
unfortunate.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I play it, and I'll be honest, it's kind of convenient when you're like playing a video game, and all of a sudden you have to go to the bathroom, and you're like, I
Dude,
really need to go,
so the
but
way I'm playing games right now, I bought, and this is
the
before
Steam Deck.
the. No, I don't have the Steam, right? I bought this before the Steam Deck was in. Called a One X player, right?
Yeah,
I
you
think,
told me about it
yeah, and so I was playing Elden. Like before I got on the call with you, I was playing Elden Ring
on that.
on the in the bed. I was in the bed playing Elden Ring on a handheld, and mind you, thing was expensive. It's like double the price of a Steam Deck, but Steam Deck performs better than what I have, and it's at a price that's comparable to the Switch.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but if Valve decides to really market and push and make sure a ton of games work on the Steam Deck, that's gonna hurt Nintendo. Again, a lot of people play indie games and stuff like that on the Switch. If I can,
the thing that bothers me about the Steam Deck though is that it's not user friendly. It's
what
like
do you
it's
mean?
made for people.
What?
The Steam Deck is made for people that love computers, right? They know how to
So
do
so
manage a
hold on,
computer, how to manipulate
hold
it.
on.
It's like it's not as
They're using Steam Big Picture mode, which is akin to say like the UI on Sony or Xbox's thing. It does need it. Like I've read reviews that has been a sticking point, right? But they're working on it, making it better. Updates come out for that thing constantly. So if you just want to buy games on Steam, don't want to side load it, you don't want to do all that stuff to it, you can basically buy games. They have a list of games in their catalog that are compatible with the Steam Deck. You can sit there and look. Okay, I can buy this, this, and this, and all those games would pick up and run exactly like they would on a.
yeah, I'm trust me, like it's eventually I'm gonna try it out. I'll give it a shot
I have
because
a I
you're
have a
really pushing it.
reservation for one, and so like I can't get it right now. So if the reservation comes up, I'll let you know. You have to buy it in a certain amount of time. I'll let you know,
Mm.
and you can buy it, and you'll have one. But that's my top five, man.
And
Um,
that's my top five.
Going over it, mine was Pokemon, the entire thing, Bioshock Infinite, Red Dead Redemption 2, Last of Us, and Nintendo as a whole.
So mine were well, not in order. So Final Fantasy Remake, Persona 5, Ghost of Tsushima, Disco Elysium, and Breath of the Wild.
So if y'all made it this far, if you listen to this whole thing, and I know if any amount of people listen to it, gonna wholeheartedly disagree. Whatever platform you leave a message. This will be up on YouTube too. Um, just shoot us a message. Let us know why you disagree. Uh, yeah, we'll have a discussion in the comments.
Yeah. Hey, good talk, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man.
And talk to you guys later.
Later.